Hello and welcome to the Gothic Unicorn. Today I'm going back to 1/48 scale and I'm actually changing the video a little bit. I was going to start this little series by making some of the bits that are going to go in to the house, but I've just had an order from Petite Properties of things that I want to use in this project, and so I'm going to share that with you as well. So we'll start with the house. The next property, it's another one from the Dead End collection, is Angman's Holt. Now this has got a really cool little is it a cupola thing where the bell hangs on the top of the roof, so there's a bell that can ring, and you've also got a little gallows outside the front of the building. A bit gruesome, I know, but it is Dead End. Now this house has got 3 rooms inside, pretty much like the last one I did. That means there is a room on the ground floor, which isn't a shop, but well, I'm going to explain about that in due course. Then you've got the first floor room and you've got a little attic room, this time without a window, but I'm not going to let that stop me. Couldn't possibly. So that's what we're going to be working on. Now I'm going to show you what I've bought to potentially go in it. If you've shopped with Petite Properties, you will know the excitement of opening one of their packages and seeing the stripy paper bag inside. Now, I'm going to take the contents out. I have already put them into one pile to make it easier for me to get together, but let's have a look at what I got. Now, as with the previous Dead End property that I built, I want to make it appear that there are depths to the property that you can't see. So the first thing I've got are 3 doors, 1 for each floor, and I've gone for the Edwardian style door this time, just to be a bit different. No other reason than that. Now I always find that having chairs is useful, and I do need some chairs for my plan for this, so I bought a pair of fiddleback chairs. Now, these are older style chairs, but I think it's going to work because it's just going to look like chairs that have come from somewhere else. Next we've got a vintage cooker. I'm hoping that I can get this plan I've got in my head to work, and if I can, a cooker is very important. Now following on from that, I've got a vintage kitchen table and the matching chairs. Again, hopefully I can make this work in this property. Then we've got a single bed, again vintage. No other reason than it sort of goes with the kind of idea that I've got. I've got a retro chest of drawers, and then I've got the traditional tall cupboard, which, whilst it comes with shelves inside, if I leave it shut up, I can make out that it's a wardrobe. At least that's what I'm hoping. We'll see when we come to build that. So that is my little haul. It's quite a big haul for me actually, from Petite Properties, and this is most of what I'm going to be using in this house. Now, as opposed to the last property that was quite sparsely furnished because it was a shop and I wanted things to stand out, this I want to look more cluttered, hence why it's quite a bit, even though it is actually a smaller building. And I've got some other bits that I'm also going to include that came from advent calendars, so I'll show you those next. So these bits, I'm going to start off with the one that sort of set my mind working about the kind of style of this property, and that was this retro gas fire and surround. Now I actually saw somebody who'd made this up, and I thought, I quite like that. That could work. And so that is going to be quite important for my sort of aesthetic. Now, to go with the fire, I've got a pair of 1930s fireside chairs. I think, you know, quite a simple little piece, but I think that is going to work really, really well for what I have in mind. At the same time, I've got the base unit and wall unit for a retro kitchen. I've sort of decided that my first floor is going to be a sort of kitchen living room. Now I haven't been able to get a kitchen sink, so I'm sort of undecided of whether I'm going to wait and leave a space, or if I'm going to try making one of my own again. We will see when we get that far. But I've got my sort of retro kitchen. And then I've pulled out these two very different desks. I've got a Tudor desk with a stool, and then I've got a Davenport desk, which has quite a nice writing slope. Because I want the downstairs space to sort of resemble a bit of an office. Now, Hangman's Halt suggests that that's where the hangman is based. I'm not going to say hangs out because that would just be wrong, although it was the first sort of phrase that came to mind. I want the downstairs space to be an office and to make it look like it maybe isn't as used as it used to be. And what I've got in mind is the sort of office kind of from A Christmas Carol, you know, with the eye desks, maybe a lot of paperwork. And I think that although this the Davenport desk is a bit on the smaller side, I can make that work. And then this Tudor desk, I think I can also make work, hopefully. I'm not planning on putting a massive amount of furniture in the downstairs section. It's going to be more of a reception area for something that's behind it. At least that's what I'm thinking. I don't know, it might change and I might end up either making something completely different or buying something else. Then, as I say, the first floor room is going to be a sort of living kitchen space, and then I'm going to have a bedroom in the attic. And rather than it being the hangman that lives here, it's going to be the hangman's daughter, the last in the family, who sort of isn't the hangman anymore, but still carries out certain duties maybe, and still lives in the same house and sleeps in the same room that they used as a child. That's what I'm thinking. Whether it'll turn out like that is anybody's guess. As I said, I'm going to focus on some of the bits to go in this property first off. I could just get straight in to building the house, but I have had a request for a bit more details on building some of these kits. So I thought I'm going to start with something fairly simple that, to be fair, looks like it's going to be pretty self-explanatory, and then maybe work up to something a bit more complicated. And I think that in that respect, doing these two different desks, one of which is really straightforward and the other one's got some more details on it, is a good place to start. And then we'll see how I'm doing for time, and we might make some more. So, Tudor desk and stool. This is the sort of piece that you might think of as almost medieval. Tudor's a bit later than medieval. if you want to be picky, which I am because I'm an historian. And yeah, so as with all of the Petite Properties kits, you get your instructions. Now the instructions are pretty self-explanatory. You know, I say this, their kits are so straightforward for the most part. They're so easy to follow. It is unbelievable. It's only the fact that they are so small, being this scale, that makes them difficult. So we've got obviously the two pieces, the desk and the stool, and we've got pieces of each on both of these little cards. They're all the pieces are laser cut, and obviously you get little tabs that attach them, and you need a craft knife to remove them. I actually start off by leaving the pieces in here, and I'm going to add some colour. Excuse my watch making a noise. I'm going to add some colour with a alcohol marker. This is a different one to the brand that I normally use. I normally use my Pro markers, but these came along at a reasonable price, and I thought I'm going to give them a go. I know of a lot of people in colouring groups that use them, but I want to give them a try for minis. So this one is light old rose, which is a sort of pinky colour, which I'm hoping if I put it onto this is going to come out as a sort of faded, slightly dirty browny kind of colour. It's a bit pinker than I would like, but I can probably fix that by putting another colour over the top. This is a brilliant thing about alcohol markers, you can do this. So all that I do is I start off by colouring the pieces in here. If I'm using a marker, if I'm going to use a paint, I will generally put it together first and then paint it. But with the smaller pieces, it is definitely easier to colour them on the backing piece, and it is rather pink, sort of pinker than I want, but we will persevere. This is what I do, and then I'm going to turn them over and I'm going to repeat it on the other side. I will still need to go around the edges, any edges that actually show up, but it is only small pieces that I need to colour in. And as I say, this is easier with the alcohol markers. Now I do it this way with alcohol markers because the marker, or indeed if you try and use these wood stain pens that you can get, it won't colour over your glue. So if you get any glue that oozes where you don't want it to be, which is always a problem, can happen with anything, you have a problem if you're going to colour it like this, then you need to use paint to cover it. But I tend to find that paint at this scale can look a bit clumpy. Now let's see what we've got. I am just looking for something a bit on the grey side. Let's have a look at this one and put that over that. Will that work? I'm not sure. I'm going to leave that to dry for a minute, and then if I like how it's coming together, I will put a second coat. I would always recommend, even with just you know, one colour that you're happy with, you're doing more than one coat, because the material, which is just like mountboard, will actually soak up the first lot of colour, and then you get lines that have been left by the laser cutter, like little singe marks around the outside, for want of a better description. But I'll be back in a moment, and I will hopefully have decided how I'm going to finish up the colouring. I actually decided to go for a caramel colour, a very light browny colour, which has given it a more brown appearance than I originally wanted. I wanted it to look sort of old and worn, and wood, when it gets old and worn, tends to go greyer, but none of the greys that I've got to hand are suitable. So we're going to go with this, we'll work with this, not a problem. The next step is obviously to remove the pieces, and I've got my scalpel type craft knife, and you just cut the little tabs. Now, I do sometimes find that depending on the thickness of the board that's used, because this is a bit on the thinner side, you might need to go and cut it from both sides, but we shall see with this thicker one if that comes out. That's come out quite nicely. And then I've got the two side pieces for my stool. That piece which stuck to my hand is also for the stool. And then we've got the main body of our Tudor style desk. Oh, and I've missed one, but it was alright because it had broken anyway. So I'll put that aside. I tend to use those little bits of the board that the pieces are cut out from to test my colours on, because it's the same material and it's the same batch, because obviously I don't know how consistent the material that they use is, but I do it that way. As I say, the next thing is I need to colour all the edges. Now this is going to take a little while, so I'm going to do that off camera, but I will just be doing it the same way, which will be a coat of the light old rose and then a coat of the caramel. What I will also just tell you that I will do is, if there's anything that needs folding, as in this desk, I will fold it and I will colour in the gap at this point, simply because it does go a bit get a bit awkward, and you do get some very light bits, as you can possibly see in there, that may need more coats of the ink. So I'll be back with you in a moment. With the colour all done, I'm going to start building this. Now, the first part to make the desk is to fold gently the main body of the desk, and I need to glue both of these tabbed bits. Now I've got my glue over here, and I've been asked why I have the glue that side and not on the other side. It's because I'm not going to knock it off. I actually have far more room to my left as I'm working than I do to my right, and I've just done that off camera, but I've put glue on both of the tabs. And then what I need to do is I need to slide that into there and into there. Now it says to hold the sides in place, and I will do that, but I'm also going to try and remove the excess glue because it looks messy. And what is actually only a very small amount of glue looks really messy at this scale, because it looks like a great big blob. And we'll do the same underneath. Now, this is another reason why I don't generally film everything because fingers really get in the way at 1/48. As you can see, this piece is absolutely tiny compared to my hand, and I don't have the biggest hands in the world, and yeah, it's just a bit awkward. But there I've got my little Tudor desk, which is now basically ready to go, and that will stand on its own 2 feet and will go into the property quite nicely. So I'm just going to lay it back down, and I'm going to work on the stool. Now this means I need to start with this little tiny piece that looks like a little tiny rolling pin, and I need to put the tiniest bits of glue onto these 2 ends, and then just check which way around this goes. That way. That needs to go into there. Now again, I need to remove the excess glue. Like so. And that needs to be supported at 90 degrees. Now it says to do both of them. This is incredibly fiddly because we're looking at pieces that are smaller than my fingernails. You know, this is my main issue, is actually getting good working shots. It's hard enough with 12th scale stuff, but at least with furniture at 12th scale I have half a chance. And then again, remove that excess glue, make it look something like, and so that should then be pretty good. So this needs to dry for a few moments, so I will just pause filming and we'll come back and we'll finish this off. I am hoping that my little stool base is now secure enough that I can glue on the top, and what I need to do is I need to apply glue to both of the top tabs, and this is easier said than done because these are tiny. Right, so then I'm going to put this back down onto the table, and I'm going to try and fit this over the top, and if I've got this right, this will now go together and it will form a stool. Now I've got to admit, this isn't the sort of most comfortable looking stool because there is these bits of wood sticking up through the top, but I'm sure you could get your behind between those 2 bits. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do. Now I'll get that glue out from under there, and we can set this aside to dry properly. But there is this little Tudor desk and stool set, so I'm going to move this somewhere to dry, and then we will have a look at the Davenport desk. So it is on to the Davenport desk. Now I've already taken this out of the bag for no other reason than there are little tiny micro beads to make the drawer handles, and I've taken them out because quite frankly I don't want them going everywhere. These things are absolutely tiny. If I hold the bag up with the paper behind, you may be able to see them. They are ridiculous. So I'm going to put those to the side for now, and we will start with the actual kit. Now this one has got the usual mount board pieces, the main structure of the desk, and it's got these pretty much just cardstock, which are drawer fronts, I think. I haven't looked at the instructions, I've literally just took it out of the bag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the way that I normally do by adding some colour. Now I haven't decided which colour I'm going to use, so I'm going to go off camera for a minute, try a couple of colours and decide what works. I decided to go with a dark brown. This one's called Bronze, and I have already coloured in the little cardboard pieces, not cardboard, cardstock pieces that will be the drawer fronts. I've also done a deep green colour, the bit that would normally be leather on a desk, and I've just gone around that very, very carefully because I don't want to mix the colours, and I'm going to repeat that process, going around carefully with my brown for what would be the wooden bit. Now alcohol ink is really good at spreading. You don't generally have to colour all the bits, so we will use the brush end now for the other bits, because I don't feel like I need to be quite so exact on these. Now I have only coloured the one side of the cardstock pieces, which will be the front, so to speak, and I'll just go over there, and I've got this bit, and then I've got these two pieces that are, I think, not going to be visible, so I am not going to colour them. So I'm hoping that this is going to be a sufficient level of colour. I'll put a bit more over these because they seem to have some white bits. It might be the material. It does seem to be the material today. I seem to be having a bit of a issue. I do generally use a couple of coats at least to build up the colour to a reasonable depth, unless I want something to look really worn and I suppose faded is the right. I am just going to leave the one layer on the green though, because I don't care if that leather looks a bit worn out. So next step is to cut out my pieces with my scalpel again, as I did before. Just need to identify where my little tabs are. That's my front piece. I've done it. Oh, there's some more. Oh, there's some more. Now, with a piece like this has got a definite inside and outside, it is easier to see the tabs on the other side. I'm not going to cut those out just yet because they're tiny, they are going to blow away. So I am going to figure out which bits I need to colour around the outside, and then we'll stick it together. To put this together, I'm using my usual glue. This is Cosmic Shimmer acrylic glue. I like it because it is a glue that starts off quite runny and goes tacky quite quickly. Now all I need to do on these is I need to put a little bit of glue onto what I'll call the shoulders of the pieces, and I've realised I need to actually colour the tabs on those, and they need to go in. Now it says to make sure that they are supported at 90 degrees until they stick, but that actually appears to have done so itself, as in it would only go in one way, and so they get to sit there for a minute. Now I have realised I haven't coloured those, so I will get my marker back out and I will colour that before the piece is finished. Now I'm quite lucky in that this glue actually takes quite quickly. I apply it with a cocktail stick because I find it easier than using those fine nozzled bottles. Personal preference, got to be said. And then I use another cocktail stick, toothpick, to remove any extra glue. It's always a good plan, and then that just fits together like so and gets held in place until it's dry. So we'll leave that for a little while, and then we can start to see how this desk is going to come together. Yep, that's worked. Now the front panel, which is part C according to the instructions, is stuck in place, not on the sides, but using these two shelves inside. So we'll put some glue onto them, and then that goes with the big side up. What I want to do is I want to slide this in without sliding it along the glue too much, because we want the glue to stay in place, and we just want to make sure that it is nice and flush with the piece at the bottom, and then it's a case of just holding it in place until it takes. There isn't really anything that you can put in place to hold things at this scale. Sometimes I will use my tweezers. I love these tweezers for 1/48 scale work. They are reverse tweezers, I think they're called, and I've actually now got two pairs, although I can only find one. Another one has disappeared into the mess that is off to the side, and I can, if need be, do that. I've also realised that you can see some pieces on there, so what I'm going to do is I am going to get the pen and I'm going to touch up where I need to touch up, and then we will stick the drawer fronts in place. I'm ready now to stick the drawer fronts into place, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to put a small amount of glue onto each spot, and I'm just going to try and pick these bits up off the desk. Now these are some of the extra little details that the Petite Properties kits are great for, because it just adds a little bit extra dimension, and it is such a small amount of extra dimension, but it makes all the difference. And of course I've put those on, I have to slide it off the edge. The wrong side, they are the same, most of them are the same. You've got a big drawer at the bottom, a smaller rectangular drawer in the middle, and then you've got a shaped drawer at the top. Now I'm going to be sticking the top of my desk there, and it says you can actually leave it open if you want to. That sort of defeats the objects of the drawers though, as far as I'm concerned, and is a bit too schoolish. I am actually old enough to remember having desks that you opened up when I was at primary school, before we all went over to just plain tables. But this is supposed to be a piece from a much more bygone age than that. As I say, this is the fiddly bit, and I don't normally do the really fiddly bits on camera because it can take quite a while. So I do need my extra cocktail stick here just to clean up that glue and to make sure that that drawer stays in the right place. The smaller the bits, the harder it is to actually get them to do what you want when you want. So those are the drawer fronts. I'm just going to get a little bit more glue onto here, and I'm going to put glue around all the unpainted tops of my desk. Quite a bit. Now I'm going to have to clean a good chunk off, but I want this to stay in place. I am perhaps not the best idea to scrape the glue off onto my finger, but it works for me, and I can clean that off before I do anything else. So that is the basic structure of the desk. Now we come to the really fun part, which is attaching these. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go off camera and prepare for this. I will probably do most of them and just do one or two on screen, because I can guarantee they're going to go everywhere. Past experience tells me this is not going to be pleasant. You've been warned. So what I've done is I've actually put some of the beads, you can't really see them because they've all run into the edge, into a plastic lid. Now this is the lid off some Pringles. It gets used for this kind of thing repeatedly. Now I've stuck the ones on the other side, which is why I've got to be very, very careful with this side now. And what I want to do is I want to put a tiny dot of glue onto each drawer front, ideally lined up as appropriate. So that's those. It's not very much. I've got my tweezers and I've now got to try and pick up these beads. Now more often than not, as just happened there, I will pick up a bead and I will drop it again. I would recommend that you put the remaining beads, because you do get sent loads. There's far more in there than I'll need, somewhere safe, because I have had them fall off afterwards and had to replace. Petite Properties are really, really good in that they give you extra though, because they know that these things are tiny. Now if you are looking for something like this yourself, you can find them with nail art supplies. They are sometimes referred to as micro beads or caviar beads. What I call them is not repeatable on YouTube, but there we have it. Now obviously you might be able to see a little bit of white around it. That's the glue. That will dry clear. It is important to make sure your glue does dry clear. I'm not too bothered by there being a little bit extra glue on there. I just want to make sure those things are well and truly attached. And here we have the completed little Davenport desk. As I've said, these kits are incredibly straightforward. The little added details do make a difference at this scale, and that's why I keep buying them and why I do recommend them for anybody who wants to have a go at 1/48 quarter scale. You know, they are cheap enough that even with postage costs, you can try a few things, and if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. Obviously, when you start getting into the finer details, that's when it gets a bit tricky, as you might have seen from some of my other videos. But there is my second desk. And here we have both kits that I've made today, the Davenport desk and the Tudor desk and stool. As I said at the beginning, these are going to be going into my next project, which will be coming fairly soon. Not sure how soon at the moment. I'm trying to figure out how often to put 1/48 scale videos into the mix. If you feel like I should be doing more, because I'm doing them about once a month at the moment, if you think I should be doing them more, please by all means let me know. If I know that people want to see more of this, I can do more of this. But anyway, here are the pieces. 2 desks ready to go in my kit. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe. Maybe even ring that notification bell. It will let you know when I upload a video. I upload pretty much every week, normally on a Friday, but I don't promise anything. Real life gets in the way sometimes, and there's nothing we can do about it. But until next time, bye.